Everyone's in the house. Why are my glasses fogging up? Good evening. It's 7:01 p.m. on the East Coast, Tuesday, October 24th. This is Community Conversations. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're here, say hello. Let us know where you're from. I see Cash is in the house. Beth is in the house. Amy's in the house. Good to see you all. As always, we'll give a couple minutes to let people get in and get settled. How's everyone doing tonight? Who attended the virtual conference? Let's see if that did it. These glasses fog up all the time. What's up, Matt? Good to see you. Oh, hi, Nirvana. I'm glad you're here for your son. That's fantastic. Where are you from? What did y'all have fun at the virtual conference? I thought it was awesome. They did a really good job. If you're just joining us, welcome, welcome. As always, feel free to say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Hey, Robert, good to see you. And we'll get started in the next 60 seconds or so. Valerie in the house. Love Lana. All the all-stars are here. Cash is in the house. I don't know why I say in the house, but sure, why not? Matt Bannister said it best. The virtual conference was epic. It really was. It was awesome. Dave Raven's here. Hi, Michelle. It's great to see you. Amy Ellickson is still in Wisconsin. So glad everyone had fun at the virtual conference. It really was it was a great conference this year, and it's a great conference every year, but I think it gets better and better every year. So, hi, Ter. I hope I'm getting that right. Ter from Connecticut. All right. It is 7:03 p.m. It's been about 2 minutes. So if you're just joining us, say hello. Let me know you're here. And say hello. Let me know where you're from. Hi, Denise from New York. And let's get through the housekeeping so we can get into the conversation. So my name is Ethan Smith. If you don't know me, I'm a national advocate for the International OCD Foundation, whose glasses continue to fog up right there. Apparently that one section of my face is a little warmer than the rest. Hi, Jessica from Destin. This community conversation is intended to serve as educational content and is not intended to replace therapy. For treatment-related questions, please be sure to work with your local provider or contact a local clinician. The IOCDF is not a crisis hotline. If you're in crisis or ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please go to your local emergency room, call 911 or 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988. As always, we want to create a safe space and be kind and respectful to everyone. At the end of the day, we're all here to support one another. And I know this is being broadcast on several social media platforms and it's being recorded. So keep that in mind as you ask questions and as we get personal, if you will. So great to see everyone. If you're just joining us, welcome. Let us know you're here. Say hello. My mom is in the house. Hi, Liz. Mom, Liz. Hey, Melissa Marquez is here from the wilderness here in Utah. Utah is beautiful. I just saw a question from Michelle J. Let's dive in. I have some topics, but I want to hear from you. So what's on your mind tonight? What can we dive into? It's been a minute. I think we had our town hall with everyone a couple weeks ago. So load up the comments with questions, and if not, I definitely have some stories from the last week. So Michelle J at 7:04 p.m. asks, "Do you know how I can learn more to become an OCD advocate?" What a great question. I do, and this is a great question to start us off on. So there may be two questions here. One is, how do I become an OCD advocate with the IOCDF? And you may be asking that. And if that's the case, we can put in the comment thread a link where you can sign up to be a grassroots advocate, and you'll get newsletters and happenings and things that's going on and ways you can participate. And that's a great way to get started with the IOCDF. And thank you for putting that up there, Brennan. And then the bigger question is, and I don't know whether you're asking this or not, but how to become an OCD advocate, which is, being an OCD advocate at the end of the day is really just sharing your story with someone else, right? That's what it is boiled down in a nutshell. It doesn't have to look like doing a live stream or doing television or radio or really, really like national stage. The end of the day, it comes down to, are you willing to share your story with someone else? Are you willing to advocate on behalf of yourself or someone else? The goals in advocacy remain the same for everyone, which is, sorry, Amy left a comment, and I thought of something, which is reduce stigma in education, and you can do that many, many, many ways. Amy, so I will also send you a link. I was just made aware of this. The IOCDF has a new resource for contacting senators and helping to support mental health, public policy, and change. Brennan, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, or if you have a link to that. There's a whole resource center where you can put in your zip code, and it'll tell you who your representatives are, where you live, and also give you a form letter for how you can reach out and what you can write. So it's our first step in supporting the community and being able to impact legislation. And because you're absolutely right. Yes, thank you. Awesome, Brennan. So if you look in your comment, you'll see the IOCDF.org/take action. This is a new, please share this, pass it around. This is a new page on the site. It will continue to grow, but I think it's an amazing resource for at least making it easier to access your representatives wherever you live and be able to push public policy and play a role in that, because you're absolutely right, Amy. I love your comment, Michelle. Michelle at 7:06 p.m. wrote, "True, I just want to help as many people as I can. Definitely willing to share my story." So back to advocacy. And as always, please, if you've got questions, feel free to load them in the comment thread. Advocacy can look like many things. And I know individuals here will share ways in which they advocate, but you can get involved with the IOCDF. You can advocate on social media. You don't necessarily have to divulge your identity or who you are. There's lots of people that aren't necessarily comfortable. And there's amazing OCD related accounts on social media where we don't know who they are, and some have come out with who they are later on. But social media is a great place to start with advocacy, the IOCDF. If you want to talk at your school or schools in your area, first responders, and blog articles, live streams, you can host podcasts. I mean, really, advocacy is only limited by your imagination. We at the IOCDF have seen so many amazing ways people can advocate, ways in which we never even thought of. And I think that's the beautiful thing about advocacy, is there's no one way to do it, right? My only prerequisite for advocacy is exactly what you said. Help as many people as you possibly can with an open heart and an open mind, wanting to teach people about this disorder, let people know there's help and hope, reducing stigma, and educate, and that ultimately is your guiding light. From there, Michelle, I would ask you, what are you passionate about? Ask yourself what you're passionate about, and if there's ways to incorporate your passion with your advocacy. For instance, my wife, I almost said fiance, my wife, Katie, runs, as everybody knows, she runs for OCD, runs beyond OCD. She runs toward her values. She runs all the time. Incidentally, that is not how we met. But she runs. Sorry, I when I get texts, I need to turn this off because I get distracted. And so, she's running 50 ultra marathons in 50 states to raise money for OCD. And, her Instagram is Rev Run. I don't think that's it. Rev K Run Beyond OCD. Rev Run is a rapper, and that's not who I married. But anyway, so I think focusing in on your passion and what creatively gets you excited, and then seeing how you can integrate advocacy into that is a really great way to start. I see everyone's deep in conversation. Matt wrote at 7:08 p.m. This is in regards to the virtual conference. All the keynote speeches in your conference wrap-up was very inspiring, empowering. Uma Chatterjee, Valerie Andrews, Mel, Alexander Reynolds, and Chris Tronson were just awesome. Your presentation with Katie O'Donnell was really awesome too. Ethan really enjoyed it. Matt, we love you at the IOCDF. The IOCDF loves you. I love you. And your presence is always so appreciated. Even though we haven't been in person yet, we feel your energy all the way from the UK coming across the Atlantic Ocean and into our hearts. And that is the truth. You're awesome. So we love having you. And we're so glad that you had a good time. Um, let's see here. Just lots of love. I love all the love. Um, Thank you. So Valerie at 7:10 p.m. thought she'd be a little snarky with her comment and write, I see beauty is on to support the beast, meaning Katie is commenting, and I'm the beast in that situation. But as we all know, under the fur was a dashing, handsome prince. So just saying, we love Valerie. Um, oh my gosh, Michelle J wrote at 7:10 p.m. I'm a singer, musician, and pastry chef. You laugh, but there's so much to do there. I mean, like already I'm thinking like for next week's awareness week, could you do you know, uh cookies or cupcakes for awareness? There's so many things you could do or design in regards to pastries and reducing stigma and education around OCD. There's we see that really offensive. There's obviously lots of offensive ways people use OCD, like OCD, obsessive cookie disorder, but like you're a pastry chef. So like how could we combat that with actual cookies and have useful information about real OCD on it? And obviously as a singer musician, we should connect you with other singer musicians in our community that have written songs and music and poetry and things like that. But just in the few things that you've mentioned, there's so many great opportunities to advocate in a way that's meaningful to you. So thank you for sharing that about yourself. Really appreciate it. And absolutely, Amy, advocacy can line up with a SIG too, special interest group. We have multitude of them. There is also a page on the IOCDF website where you can see what SIGs we offer. These are each SIG, special interest group, is around a specific conversation and representation, whether it's chronic illness, individuals with OCD and chronic illness, young professionals that have OCD. There's literally, I think, 20 something SIGs. Katie runs Faith and Mental Health, Faith and OCD SIG, which has 200 or 300 members. So you can definitely get involved as SIGs as well and help not only support each other, but build community and initiatives for the IOCDF and yourself around the things that you're passionate about. Yep, SIGs come up. In fact, we just talked about doing a town hall on SIGs. So stay tuned. Actually, I think that's coming up, but stay tuned. I think Katie is hosting that, and we'll be doing a town hall on all the SIGs. And in fact, I think that might be next week or the week after. So if you want to know all things SIG, um, tune in. I see lots of conversation about pink. I'm waiting for Katie and Ethan to buy a pink house. Amy, do not put that in her head. Please don't put that in her head because she will. You should see our registry of wedding gifts. Like we have one of those KitchenAid mixers. Somebody bought us that. It's pink. All of the pots and pans, the new set, that's pink. Every glass has a pink hue. I mean, there's going to be lots. And all I ask is even neutral colors to go with it. Like I'm not even forcing my own favorite colors on Katie. But I feel like a pink house, I don't know. Although what's funny is, and I don't even know if Katie knows this, that growing up, my grandfather painted his house pink. My grandmother on my mother's side, who my mom literally just posted the same thing. Your grandma had a pink house. That's hilarious. Same brainwaves. Yep, 100%. So I remember when Grandpa painted the house light pink, and I mostly grew up in a light pink house. And Nirvana, you said you were here for your for your son. Did you have any questions? I mean, I know we're having fun and kind of letting loose, which is also important. We call it self-care. But I see you're out of here, which is totally fine. But if you have questions regarding your son or anything else, please let us know. We're happy to answer any questions that you have that you feel might be that you think how we can help you and your kiddo. So please let us know. With that, yep, pink brick too. The whole thing was what's my favorite color? My favorite color is purple, like a deep, rich purple and or blue. Purple and blue is my jam. Team Katie, thank you, Valerie. Appreciate the support. Oh, Nikki Bradley's in the house. Fantastic. All right, with that, so thank you for the advocacy question. Really appreciate it. What's on your mind? How are you feeling? What's going on? Lots going on in the world. Tell me how you're all doing. How are you feeling? How's your OCD? Where are you struggling? Where are you succeeding? Fill me in. Oh, appreciate it, Cash. Yeah, Nirvana, if you're still here, please feel free to ask any questions you want. This is a completely open, supportive group where we're just here to support one another in our journeys with OCD and related disorders. Oh, Beth Carducci went to do a store yesterday. That's awesome. I'm so proud of you, Beth. You're just piling on the wins, and it may or may not feel like that. I hope you recognize and realize um, how amazing the things that you've been doing are, and you celebrate your wins, and you don't compare to other people. Um, but that's awesome, Beth. And I love that you're continuing to challenge yourself. I think your world's going to get bigger and bigger, and we are here to support. And thank you for sharing. That's so exciting. Um, Akash, I hope I got that right. Said I got caught in a driving loop today. I relate to getting caught in loops. They kind of come out of nowhere, right? And when you least expect it, which is so challenging. Um, but I call them OCD attacks. Actually, I could be doing something and haven't had, the OCD has been very quiet, and then all of a sudden it'll just kind of grab me, and I'll get in a little bit of a loop. I know Katie can relate as well, and but it sounds like you're out of that loop now, and so you can always ask yourself, why did I get caught in that loop? I mean, obviously OCD, but what grabs you, maybe how you can respond differently the next time something like that comes up. But super common. Give yourself lots of self compassion, and I'm so glad you're here. Okay, my phone's ringing. Everybody's very busy contacting me tonight. Michelle J wrote, I recently weaned off of Prozac completely after having done OCD therapy, so I'm feeling pretty grateful. That's fantastic, Michelle. Congratulations on that, and I'm so excited for your therapy as well. Therapy is a very powerful tool, and it is worth saying, this is OCD is, I always say, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, and it's a process, right? So I think it's such a huge win to be able to lean on therapy completely and not need to stay on medication. That's right for her. We don't talk medication too much in here because I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm also not a clinician, but whatever. Um, but the reality of it is like everybody has their own unique journey in this process, right? And so I'm on medication. I've been on medication. For me, I decided to stay on it. But for other people, especially that weren't on it, didn't. My story is long and exhausting. But for people that may have started it, and then uh, got involved in treatment, there are many situations where you can then get off of it. And that's what I always tell people is like, you want as many tools as possible to combat the illness. That's the reality. And there's no stigma around medication. There's no stigma around therapy. Like it's all medication to get us to a place of functionality. And then from there, we can make decisions about what we need in our life. And in Michelle's case, and thank you for sharing that, Michelle, it made sense to go off the Prozac and lean on her therapy. And that's very common for lots of people. And I applaud you for that. At the same time, if she needed to go down the road to get back on or doesn't, like it's all what tools are available and what we need in the moments, whatever life is throwing at us. But I think that's awesome. And I always tell people, that are reluctant to get on medication, if medication is suggested and prescribed by their treatment team, the first thing I say is it doesn't have to be lifelong. It's not, when I got on it in the 90s, it was like, well, you're going to have to be on it the rest of your life, right? I didn't know about ERP. I didn't know about treatment. I was diagnosed, but it took me 17 years to find those things. And so all of that has changed, where really the reason medication, so if you ask clinicians, they will say the most effective approach, and again, it's not a one size fits all. So, and this is not my recommendation, but they will say the most effective approach in many cases is a combination of medication and therapy, right? But if you break that down, most clinicians will say that of those percentages, 20% to 30% is medication and 70 to 80% is therapy, meaning the efficacy, right? What's really going to make the change. So a lot of times when you're engaging in therapy, where medication becomes beneficial is to open a little bit of window to lower your shield just a little bit, especially if the OCD is really strong, you've got a lot of fixed beliefs, and it's really challenging to engage and embrace the therapy. I don't know, Michelle, if you experience this. The medication has a tendency to open a little portal to where therapists can inject that treatment, and then from there your shields will lower completely, and it's at that point therapy can take over and you may not need the medication anymore. And that in general is a really beneficial way to engage in both modalities of treatment. And then again, from there, depending on how you're doing it, totally up to your treatment team what you want to do. But I never want to stigmatize medication. If that's what's recommended, it doesn't have to be a lifelong thing, but it's really beneficial as you engage in treatment to help treatment along. So thank you for sharing, Michelle. Jessica wrote, I'm here for myself, but see some OCD characteristics in my son. He is slowly creeping into puberty. I want to protect him from the OCD, but I know that will just give him a negative outlook about it. Can I take any preventative measures? Great question, Jessica, at 7:17 p.m., Brennan. So you have I'm here for myself, so I'm assuming that you're saying that you have OCD, but you're also saying, potentially some characteristics in your son. First of all, I commend you for being here, for noticing, and education is so important. Puberty is a very common time for onset of OCD. Any major milestones are, and puberty is obviously one of those major milestones for a young kiddo. When you say slowly creeping in, I would ask, and you don't need to answer this, but I would ask yourself, what does that mean? And the reality is, OCD can be so treatable early onset. I mean, it's so treatable regardless, but is really treatable in children. The neuroplasticity of their brain and the flexibility, you can really put it to bed before it gets to really interfere with. I'm assuming he's in eighth grade, or maybe seventh or eighth grade. So as he get into high school, the preventative measures to take are, the best way you can protect him from the OCD is to treat the OCD, right? I wouldn't necessarily look at it like I don't want to label my son, um, and in doing that, give him a negative outlook. It's really about educating yourself on what OCD is and how it may or may not be impacting him. And then can you get him with a specialist, right? It isn't about a label, it isn't about a diagnosis. That's important for the treatment. And potentially, if he's wondering, if he's asking questions about why he's doing certain things, if you're noticing things, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to address it on the earlier side to prevent it getting out of hand, because that's essentially that's what I would protect your son from, is OCD becoming a much larger monster than it has to. If there's just little things that are creeping in, little compulsions, micro compulsions or micro avoidances that are happening, and you can kind of nip it in the bud early, that's the best case scenario, right? And that is the best way to protect. If you're not sure how to navigate it, Jessica, take the guessing out of it. So if you don't want to stigmatize if you feel like it'll be stigmatizing to your son, or you're not quite sure how to bring it up with him, I don't know if you're in therapy right now or you're seeing a specialist, but if you are, I would 100% consult the therapist on how best to maybe approach the subject with your son in a meaningful way. If not, you can also consult with a specialist, even if you're not with somebody, and maybe have a few sessions on, I'm noticing some things about my son. You don't have to involve him yet, right? And just get some insight from an expert on how to approach it and address it with him. But the preventative measures, there aren't really preventative measures if it isn't symptomatic. But if you're seeing symptoms and you're concerned that it might be OCD, and you have a history of OCD, and we know it can be very genetic, I would definitely consult an expert and see a best way to approach. But don't be afraid to do that. OCD diagnosis shouldn't be stigmatizing at all. And there's definitely ways to navigate that. I'm sure you wish your son didn't have it, but at that age, it can be quieted so quickly. It's worth the effort to dive in a little deeper and maybe get an expert to help you navigate and see what's going on, so you can hopefully put it to bed. It can also sometimes just be what it is. I've known lots of people that gone through puberty and have compulsive tendencies, but they just outgrow it. But with your history of OCD, I would take it a little bit more seriously. But I definitely think there's preventative measures you could take simply by getting guidance and support on how to address it with your son. And there's some amazing OCD specialists for kiddos that can help you. And if you want to email the IOCDF and look at the resource directory, we can put that up there. There's tons of resources to help you navigate that. Katie wrote at 7:17 p.m. I'm so proud of Beth. I got emotional when I saw that. She did that earlier today. So as always, Beth, we are proud of you in this household. Matt at 7:18 p.m. wrote, I'm doing great. Thank you. I presented with John Grayson and Carol Edwards for visual Tourettic OCD. It was such an honor, and I'm grateful for the IOCDF to let me present at the conference and advocate for the OCD community. That's awesome, Matt. And we should have you on to talk about visual Tourettic OCD, because I know that's a very misunderstood OCD subtype and symptom, and Dr. Grayson is really well versed in it, but there's still lots of things to learn about it. So I commend you on your bravery and willingness. And yeah, Dr. Grayson's a legend. So I think you were in very good company, and I should go back and watch it because I didn't get a chance to watch it. And thank you for asking how I'm doing. I'm good. I'm busy, but I'm enjoying married life to Katie, and we're house hunting. And to be honest, as you know, I've shared all of my sort of OCD stories and health anxieties over the past few months and years. Honestly, post-wedding, my OCD is on the quieter side right now. I haven't noticed it too much, which is awesome. That's not to say that Cash won't say something later on in the comments to trigger me. That's said with love, by the way, Cash. But right now my OCD is on the quieter side. And so I'm appreciating that and staying aggressive with giving myself life exposures when I need to. And that's the beauty of, therapy and treatment and continuing to engage and get your life back, as you'll have periods of time, some longer than others, where it's pretty quiet and you don't notice it too much. And that's a beautiful, grateful time, and I never take it for granted. So thank you for asking, Matt. Appreciate it. OCD Crusher, 7:19 p.m. Struggling accepting uncertainty. How does one truly accept uncertainty in all areas in my life? The high value decisions are very challenging, and I suffer. Wow, what a great question. What a great question. This is a long, big answer, but I think we can definitely get into it. So I think that you are not alone. I think accepting uncertainty is obviously the largest hurdle in OCD treatment. It is the largest hurdle for all of us in this group. Raise your hand if you have a trouble accepting uncertainty, or leave a hand emoji. I have a feeling there'll be lots of them in the chat. So that's the first thing. You're not alone. Second thing is, accepting uncertainty is not difficult. It's not uniquely difficult to OCD. Lots of people struggle with uncertainty. It's just a challenging part of life. And I think that in many ways, uncertainty can be a real exciting thing, and uncertainty can be a really scary thing, right? So how does one truly accept uncertainty in all areas in my life? That's a big question, right? I think accepting uncertainty in all areas of your life can be very challenging. And I talk about that. I think living an uncertain life is a beautiful way to live, not just around your OCD, but in life in general, and being willing to sit with the discomfort around not knowing. I want to make sure I understand you correctly. And when you say accepting uncertainty in all areas in my life, how high value decisions are very challenging, I'm curious, OCD Crusher, if you're having trouble accepting uncertainty around your OCD, or you feel like you've got that a bit under control and there's bigger life decisions that seem challenging, or it's all interrelated. I'm guessing it's all kind of mixed up. I think at the end of the day, first of all, we have to recognize what we have control over, which is very little. With very little control over much. So we have control over our focus and our behavior, and that's pretty much it. So that's really the only things we can be certain of, right, is our own actions and what we choose to do. We can't control our thoughts. We can't control our emotions, but we can control how we respond to our thoughts and emotions, and then what we choose to do with that. From there, you have to ask yourself, what are you willing to be? How uncomfortable are you willing to be? Are you willing to be okay not being okay? And what I mean by that is, in this world of uncertainty, and that seems incredibly uncertain right now, at least regarding OCD, are you willing for your fear to occur in order to live a better life, where OCD is not ruling and dictating and determining your function and your direction and how you live your life, and choosing your values over OCD? So accepting uncertainty is, if you will, the key to treating OCD. So inevitably, you have two choices when it comes to OCD, which is compulse or accept uncertainty, right? And accepting uncertainty means I'm not going to do the thing that's I think, gonna make me feel better in the moment or provide what I think is certainty. And instead, I'm going to move in a value-driven decision that makes me uncomfortable because I'm not giving myself what I think is certainty. So why would you want to do that? Well, because you don't want OCD to dictate every decision that you make in life. So I come back to, what are you willing to risk? Are you willing for the scariest thing to happen? When I have a headache, I have health anxiety and, and fear of self-harm. I don't want to harm myself, but I'm afraid I'm accidentally going to. So when I take Tylenol, I ask myself, wait, did I take too many pills? Should I count the pills? I've been down that road before. I've spent 24 hours recounting a bottle of Tylenol, or 2 days. Not interested. So I say to myself, you know what? I'm pretty sure I didn't. Maybe I did, but I would rather die. And I say that meaning I likely know that it's OCD. So I would rather take the chance and not give OCD the fuel it needs to take over my life, rather than go down the rabbit hole that I've been before, where my life was taken from me from OCD. And that's the other piece of it, is that OCD creates the reality that you're afraid of. People that are afraid of being sick, and don't want to get ill, stay inside and don't leave. Well, people that are sick, what do? They stay inside and don't leave because they're sick, right? So in the attempt to protect yourself, you're living the life that you don't want to be living to begin with, so OCD is very good at taking things away from us. The other piece of it is you are going to make mistakes. We are all going to make mistakes. We are human beings. So the question is, what can we learn and how can we respond? So your uncertainty, and I'm touching on OCD and then life, high value decisions. You may make a bad decision. You may choose the wrong job. You may pick the wrong partner. You may make a choice that comes back to bite you. That's a reality of life, and that's not easy. I'm saying this as humbly as possible. But the real question becomes, is it worth it to live as much of a value-driven life as possible and not let the fear and anxiety and OCD prevent you from making those decisions, from living a life of regret? So you don't have to ask yourself 30 years from now, oh, what if I just done that thing that I wasn't willing to do? My experience has been, every bad decision has a lesson and a silver lining, right? Not even a bad, which then you can make the argument, not to get overly existential, but what's a bad decision if you always lead to something better? I've talked about in my past about me really struggling in LA toward the end and moving back home. And, I really felt like at that time I was taking major steps backwards. I mean, I was going through a lot of stuff. I was newly diagnosed with bipolar. A lot of challenging things in my life. I kind of call it my second experience, after 8 or 9 years of really living a beautiful life where OCD wasn't dictating it. And I really felt like I was making a terrible decision. I really felt like I was going backwards. Well, cut to 4 years from then, I guess 40 years from then, I'm married. I'm married to an amazing human being. I have a thriving business. I get to advocate with all of you. Like, I never could have imagined in 10 years or 5 years of my life being at this point. And I can identify that decision as a pivot. That's where everything pivoted for me and changed. In that moment, it seemed like a terrible decision, and I thought I was going backwards. At the same time, I can tell you decisions that I made that I thought were brilliant decisions, best decision I ever made, and I was wrong. The outcome. So the lesson is, life throws a lot of crap at you. Who knows which direction? Enjoy the ride, live with the uncertainty, and do the best you can, because there's no instruction manual to this crap. All right. Oh, I hate when, sorry, my chat tends to adjust. Beth Carducci, 7:19 p.m. This group has been so monumental in helping me achieve difficult things. I always think about this. It's a beautiful day to do hard things. 2 months ago, I would have never believed I could do this. Well, it is a beautiful day to do hard things. We'll credit Kim Quinlan with her saying on that. And you give us as much support as we give you, and you hold me accountable all the time. I think about you and what I would want to say to you as I come on. And so we love you, Beth, and we're so excited you're making difficult decisions and fighting it and wanting that big, beautiful life that you deserve. So nothing but major mad respect. Give yourself lots of self-compassion and love. You're going to have ups and downs, but I love seeing you take steps forward. It's just, my heart is smiling for sure. Beth Carducci at 7:21 p.m. wrote, OCD crusher. OCD jumps on the things you value most. It knows what you love and it uses it against you. Keep up with your ERPs. Great advice, Beth. Great advice. Wendy, hi, Mr. Newlywed. Hope you and Katie still in honeymoon phase. I am pleased to report that this is our 4th week of marriage bliss. And so far, marriage is easy. I don't know what everyone's talking about. I mean, like, it's almost 4 weeks and haven't even argued yet. So things are good. Thank you for that. Things are really, really beautiful. Mimi at 7:24 p.m. is OCD treatable, or will I be fighting this battle for the rest of my life? Great question. So yes, 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 it is treatable, 1,000%. Couple layers here that I want to touch on. One is, so the gold standard treatment is exposure and response prevention, ERP. It is under the umbrella of cognitive behavioral therapy, and it is the gold standard behavioral therapy for OCD. There are other really amazing therapies like acceptance commitment therapy. There are medications and other modalities of treatment and things like that. It is 100% treatable. And believe it or not, it is actually one of the most treatable mental illnesses of all of them. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that treatment is easy or that it's easy to access or that it's cheap. It's none of those things. Treatment can be very expensive. It can be hard to access for people. And I hate that. I really do. I recognize my privilege in this process. And that's why I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make sure that everybody can access treatment affordably, effectively, reasonably, geographically, that there's no barriers. That's why I work so hard. Everybody deserves a chance. So yes, OCD is very treatable. And as you read these comments, and I'm sure people are relating to you, are responding to you. As you're reading comments, people are listing successes like Beth's success and things like that. So lots of successes to be had. I was completely bedridden, unable to function, living in my parents' guest bedroom. After 17 years, I was born with it, but being diagnosed and not finding the right treatment for 17 years. My life is pretty amazing. Now, the other layer to this is OCD is chronic. It's not curable as of right now, but that chronicness can very much look like complete freedom, right? So I still have OCD, and in this moment, it's not impacting me. But that wasn't the case a month ago, right? And I always use analogies similar to MS or diabetes, where you can be doing everything right and it can pop up and ruin your week, and then it can disappear again because you're using skills and tools. And, I like to say, as long as you're having more good days than bad, you're winning. So, and I always say that, like, for me, I feel cured because I was so sick for so long. I mean, and unable to do so many things, that if this is what chronic looks like, I will take it, because my life is good and bad. It's just beautiful because at least I get to participate in life. The other question, and you may not have meant this, but will you be fighting this battle for the rest of your life? I want to be very clear. So, like, yes, if you don't get treatment and therapy, there's also amazing resources. And I'm so glad you're here, because hopefully, if you don't know about them, and I'm guessing this is your first time based on your question, please visit IOCDF.org. There's amazing resources, and hopefully you will find a lot of insights and articles and support from these people and these people, my friends in the thread. But I want everybody to know that if you're engaged, like Beth is, for instance, in really challenging her OCD, and if you're in the middle of treatment or therapy and you're really engaged in challenging your OCD, I don't want you to think that you're going to have to work that hard the rest of your life. And this is such a huge piece of it, because I think when you're in the midst of OCD treatment or helping yourself, and it's so challenging and it's so exhausting, and you're asking yourself, wow, is this what it's going to be like? Do I have to work this hard for the rest of my life? Is it even worth it? The answer is no, you don't. You're going to put the blood, sweat, and tears in now, because in the future, you don't have to work this hard, even remotely this hard. The ERPs become involuntary. You do things without thinking about them. You challenge your OCD in ways that you couldn't imagine, just very simply and easily. You'll no longer have to do exposures on purpose. You'll just face things in life that will trigger you and you'll make a decision in the moment that's value driven, or you'll compulse, right? I'm not perfect. I compulse. I like to think that I know I do make more value driven decisions than compulsions for sure, but it doesn't mean that I'm perfect at it. But the way I was living life with treatment, the way I live now is completely different. Um, and, most of the time in life, this has been a tough 2 years, to be honest. And I've talked about it for many reasons. So my OCD has been raised, my anxiety has been way raised, and there's a variety of reasons for that. And a lot of them good reasons. I mean, meaning good things were happening, but OCD loves to attack good things, right? So, I would say that in the last year and a half, my OCD was much more present than it has been. I've enjoyed the last couple of weeks of having it backed off, probably because the wedding is over, right? So, um, so the wedding is over, and so sorry, I lost my place. I hate when that happens. Um, there you are, Mimi. And so that's probably a reason that my OCD is backed off. But it's so important to note that if it feels tiring, it's worth it, because when you get to that other side of maintenance and management, the effort that you have to put in is significantly less. Not to sit here and say that you're not going to have challenging times where you have to step it up. There's times where I'm like, Katie's like, Ethan, use your tools, use your skills. You're going to have to step up your game, and I tell Katie the same thing. But what it looks like for treatment, what it looks like for you right now in treatment is not how it's going to look for the rest of your life. If you embrace uncertainty, if you're willing to be vulnerable, if you're willing to listen to your therapist, if you're willing to let scary things possibly happen, and embrace that fear and discomfort in order to live a value-driven life. You do that and you do it consistently, and that will carry over. And when you do have those OCD attacks, as I call them, you can stuff them out very, very quickly. You can shut it down very quickly. And also, when you're in maintenance and management, the time it takes to rebound from an OCD attack is so much quicker. I mean, I'll have a challenging time and something will happen, and the next day I'm working, ready to go, edit, not thinking twice about it. When that event, when I was sick, would have put me in bed for 2-3 weeks, months, right? So yes, OCD is treatable. No, you will not be battling the rest of your life with treatment. It's not curable. It is chronic, but that doesn't mean life is suffering. Life is amazing and beautiful. I think many people here will attest to how different their life is with treatment and therapy. I think things will only get better. So thank you. Great question, Mimi. Chad Talley in the house. Good to see you, man. And Beth Carducci. Beth Carducci with the truth bombs today. 7:24 p.m. You learn to live with it. It's treatable, not curable. I could have just said that and saved 10 minutes. Thank you, Beth. I should have just read your comments. And Mimi, as you'll see, you're getting a lot of support here. So, hi Chantel. I'm so glad you're here and listening from work. We love that you're here. Cash is keeping you on your toes, Ethan. Oh, Ethan, you cynic. You're alive and well and married. What could possibly go wrong? I love that. We got to at least put that up on the at 7:28 p.m. just to trigger me just a little bit more, put it out in the universe, Chad Talley at 7:28 p.m. got to walk my first 1 million steps for OCD last weekend. We had a great experience. Nice to meet others in the community here in Central Florida. Awesome. I love that. Walks are going on around the country. And honestly, I don't know if there are any more walks. Brennan, I'll find out from Brennan, or we'll put a link. But I'm so glad you participated, Chad. And hopefully, if you all participated in walks, hopefully you had an amazing experience. Let's see. Lots of good conversation. Y'all are awesome. Amy Ellickson, hand up. It's challenging to let go and trust. We don't have control. Yeah, it's at 7:29 p.m. Great advice. Amy wrote, hand up. It's challenging to let go and trust. We don't have control over most things anyway, though, so it doesn't pay off to try. and I think we're talking about the embracing uncertainty question at this time. Um, yeah, thank you, Brendan. I appreciate it. Matt at 7:30. Anytime, Ethan, you're absolutely bossing it. I've never heard bossing it, but I will take it. I will use that. I like it. Uh, and I'm so glad. We'll definitely have to. We'll collaborate on some VT OCD talks because I think they're very necessary. And we did do one with Dr. Grayson, and I think it was Carol a couple years ago. We did a town hall around it. So Amy Ellickson wrote, "It doesn't pay off to try to control things we don't have control over. It leads to more distress." That is true. You know, it's actually quite remarkable how freeing it is to let go. You feel so much more in control not being in control. It's such a weird paradox. But it is so true because you're not looking to control things that we literally don't have control over. And when you let that go and you decide that you will cross bridges if and when you come to them, that's so hard to do. It is so hard to do. I did a terrible job at it when I was going through my vertigo right before marriage, right before my wedding. But if you just, well, I say I did a terrible job. I probably did a pretty good job. But if you really just embrace that, you suddenly feel so in control because the reality is I can handle whatever comes up. I can handle whatever lands in my lap. I can handle whatever life throws at me. And it doesn't mean that you're going to handle it perfectly. It doesn't mean that you're going to handle it, you know, not messily. You might handle it as a puddle on the floor, but your willingness to accept that you will handle it, you will get through it, you will survive it, whatever that means. And really embracing that fact is incredibly freeing. And there is a lot of control in letting go of control. So thank you, Amy, for that comment for sure. Nathan Rice at 7:33 p.m. OCD has robbed me of a lot of things in life, and I am so sorry for that, Nathan. I relate, and I think lots and lots and lots and lots of people relate here to that comment. It definitely robbed me of my my early years and my teens. It robbed me of college. It robbed me of so much in my 20s. Robbed me of my early 30s until I got better. But you know, I went through many years where I was angry and wish I could go back, you know, and I think that's valid. I think a lot of us look back and go, "Oh, only if." But all we have now is today and looking ahead. And so, you know, I am sorry. A good friend of ours, an advocate, Neil Hemmer, always says that like OCD basically leaves a graveyard behind you of everything that you once loved. And I thought that was so crushing, but true. And so, it can rob a lot, but also wellness from OCD. There's so much yet to do, and so you're not alone in that. But there is help, and there is a community, and you know, we can choose to not let it rob us any longer. And I'm not saying that's an overnight decision. I'm simply saying that what are we going to do to move forward? How can we fight? And all of those good things. Amy Ellickson at 7:33 p.m. wrote, "Accepting uncertainty and believing that you can handle the unknown brings freedom. It's scary at first, but getting to the freedom is worth it." Again, I probably should just like read the question and then wait for the comments to populate, and then answer because you guys are much more succinct as I am. Ethan, this is so good. Thank you so much. And Castro, lol, Ethan made me cry. Cash, are you being sarcastic or did I make you cry? I'll take either one of those. We love you regardless. Beth Carducci at 7:34 p.m. wrote, "I had OCD and about my dad falling on his head. Didn't do the compulsion. A few days later, he fell and hit his head. OCD said it's your fault. I felt guilty. Thoughts cannot make these things happen." There is coincidence. That is true. There's been lots of situations and lots of examples of things. Famously, I never like Dr. Grayson. If you're watching this, please don't kill me. It's just appropriate right now. But Dr. Grayson tells a really famous story about a client that he had who was afraid she could kill people with her mind. And so Dr. Grayson, she started going to Dr. Grayson. Dr. Grayson challenged her to kill 3 people with her mind. And so they made a list and they wrote down the 3 people that she was going to kill with her mind. And the first person was her dad. And then they listed 2 other people. And that Friday, her dad dropped out of a heart attack. Needless to say, that didn't go over well. That's absolutely horrible. Um, and uh, and you would think was a incredible setback in her journey, and probably was short term. At some point, she went back to Dr. Grayson, and Dr. Grayson, with all the love in his heart, replied, "You have two more people to kill." And to my understanding, she never did. So I tell that story basically as, yes, things can happen. Um, you know, that our OCD warned us about, that and then it comes true. Does that make the OCD right? No, it doesn't. It doesn't make the OCD right. It means that there's coincidence and things happen. And if your fears are you know um, reality based fears, or things that, what if I get COVID, and you go out and you get COVID? Does that mean OCD was right? No, it doesn't. But you also have to ask yourself, do you want OCD to rule your life? Do you want to live in the OCD jail? Are you willing for OCD to be correct? I am. F it. I don't care. I don't care. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at that, but I try to have an approach of, maybe OCD is right, maybe OCD isn't right. I don't care. I'm not going backwards. After 3 times in a psychiatric hospital, and being misdiagnosed, and going through 10 different therapists, and every medication known to man, and being misunderstood and stigmatized, and losing jobs and losing relationships, I'm not doing it. I'm not going back to that again. I'm just not. And again, it doesn't mean that I don't compulse. It doesn't mean that I'm challenged. If you've been on my streams now, if you've heard me the past year and a half, I've talked about my struggles. But there is a point at which I'm willing to say enough. I'm not doing it, because I refuse to go back to that life. That life is horrible. And so if you hear me passionate, I'm like on the verge of crying, but I'm not going to. Cash cried for us. But I mean, I'm just not, and I hope that my bottom can be your bottom. I hope that you don't have to reach a bottom of almost homelessness, and being kicked. My whole story, which I'm happy to share another time for those of you that might just want to hear it from me. But I hope that if you know my story, or hear my story, or just hear me, I hit bottom, and bottom was lower. I could have gone lower, and I truly feel like you don't have to. I'm a cautionary tale. Use my bottom as your bottom, and work your way back up wherever you are in your process. But don't choose OCD over life. Don't choose OCD over your values. It's not worth it. Take the risk. Take the risk. You take the risk every time you cross the street. You take the risk every time you get in a car. You read the stats. How many people die in car accidents? How many people die getting hit by a car? How many people get hurt X, Y, and Z? Right? We all take risks. But our OCD pinpoints something that may or may not be a risk, and shines a magnifying glass on it. Shines a spotlight on it, then a magnifying glass, and it ties emotions to it. And suddenly that becomes a legitimate fear and concern. But how many things are we doing in our lives that actually are risky, right? So OCD is very good at creating risk where there isn't any. And you're not alone. And, we have a glitch in our brain, but it all came from, we're cavemen, and there a saber-toothed tiger in the bushes, and fight or flight, and I don't know what to do. And now, 4.6 billion years later, whenever humans came on the scene, we're out. Is that a saber-toothed tiger? Do I need to pay attention to that? Our alarm system's a little faulty. So be willing to say, yeah, maybe it is a saber-toothed tiger, and if I get eaten, I get eaten, but I'd rather go on this date, go to work, do something value-driven, be present for my family, be present for my friends, go on this trip. Because how would you feel at the end of your life if the saber-toothed tiger never came? Would you feel like you missed a lot? Would you be upset that you let OCD dictate your life? And I'm not saying you need support. You need, there's clinicians and experts, and it's never too late. You're never too old. I've met 80-year-olds that are entering therapy, 90-year-olds that are entering therapy. 6 months OCD, quiet is worth it. All right. So to Beth's point, yeah, it can happen. Things can happen. What you're afraid of can happen. But do you want to wait around waiting for it to happen when you don't know if it will? Or just live your life? Live your life. And again, be willing to cross that bridge if it comes to it. And beyond that, no regrets. So many good truth bombs, and I hope everybody reads these comments. They're so good. Um, so good. You guys rock. Melissa at 7:37 p.m. wrote, I still have trouble living completely 100% with uncertainty, but trying my best little by little and trying to make space for giving myself grace. It's not easy to do all the work, but also knowing that every step counts and realizing that I'm better than where I was last October. Absolutely. I used to say little wins matter, but I no longer say that only because I don't believe that there are little wins. I only believe that every win is a big win. Whether you moved like Beth, you went to the store, you got out of bed, you put on your clothes, you took a shower. They're all massive wins. This disorder is disabling. It is intense. It is painful, and it destroys. And so, A, we have to work hard to fight against it. B, when you do, it's worth it. And C, you can never compare yourself to what other people are doing, because don't compare never compare struggles, or don't look at somebody that doesn't have OCD and go, well, they walking to your mailbox should be easy. Everybody else does it. That's just, try not to do that. So not helpful. So thank you for sharing that, Melissa. It's a process. I'm not, I talk confidently, but I'm not 100% comfortable living with uncertainty at all. But I'm definitely better at it. And I think I'm going to be a lifelong student of embracing uncertainty. I don't think I'll ever master it. But same with self-compassion. I think I'll be a lifelong, you know. So Mary, exposure therapy is not, ERP is not quite the same thing as exposure therapy, though sometimes referred interchangeably. Exposure and response prevention, sometimes exposure therapy is simply just like in phobia situations, is exposing yourself to a spider, right? And having the spider and sitting with that anxiety and letting it walk on you or whatever till that fear dissipates. Exposure response prevention is exposing yourself to whatever your fear or concern is, but then preventing your compulsive response to it, meaning you're not going to engage in whatever it is you do to relieve that discomfort, whether it's hand washing or praying or checking something or calling someone. You're going to work on mitigating those compulsions and eventually eliminating those compulsions completely. So for a long time, it was just exposures, and really exposures, only half the equation. The really important stuff with the ERP is the response prevention, right? It's not engaging in the compulsions. So that's the real key to that. 7:59. One more question, and then we will. That's a big question. Wendy asked, I have heard discrimination about the ICBT model for treating OCD. Can you talk about that? Wendy, it's a long question. I don't know that I can answer that in a minute. I will say this. I think there's still a lot of research around ICBT, and I truly don't know enough about it to weigh in it. I know that people have engaged in ICBT and benefited. I know that lots and lots of therapists are learning about it. Lots and lots of research is going on to it. If you attended the virtual conference, I know there was at least a panel or two about ICBT. You can still join the conference. They didn't record the Q&As, but all the pre-recorded panels are there. And I think there's been some ICBT town halls as well. I definitely do not feel equipped to discuss it at length, just because I don't know enough about it to feel comfortably about it or represent it. I think that the OCD community deserves as many tools as possible to treat OCD. I know that as it stands right now, based on research and evidence, ERP is still the gold standard in treatment. But I think that there's lots of modalities of treatment, both therapeutically and biologically, that are being researched. And as they're researched and learned about, that's not to say that ERP will remain at the top. Like I said, I think different tools work for different people. It's not a one size fits all. We do know that the ERP is incredibly effective for most people. That isn't to say that it works for everyone, and different things are needed. So great question. And I wish I could answer more, but I just don't feel comfortable answering. But But if you want to ask the question, I'll send the IOCDF's email address at the end. We'll put that up. And if you want more resources, and I think there's resources on there. Brendan, is there resources on the IOCDF website about ICBT? I would imagine there are. With that, it is 8:01 p.m. Thank you all so much for being awesome. I love Lana. What room of the house is Katie in? Good question. I don't know where she is. I have to go through and read all. I know Cash. I want to read Cash's comments. I didn't get to. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your questions or your comments. You guys were incredible tonight. Lots and lots of good conversation. So, with all of that, first of all, I want to thank you for being awesome advocates. If somebody, I think we just got a donation. So thank you so much for the donation. Oh my gosh, thank you, Mary, so much. So appreciate you. If you comment in this thread, you're an advocate. Somebody asked early on, first question of the night, how do I become an advocate? All of you shared, you're all advocates. It's that simple. So thank you for being an integral part of our community. Thank you for being an integral part of my life. Thank you for supporting one another. Thank you for being just amazing, amazing human beings. With that, I want to thank the IOCDF and Brennan. Hang on with me. I have some announcements. Don't want to miss them. I want to thank the IOCDF and Brennan behind the scenes. Tomorrow, we have a lunch and learn with Dr. Liz and Chris Tronson. It's about treating the whole client. That's at 12 o'clock Eastern. So definitely tune in. And then on Wednesday, November 1st, we've got to ask the experts. Apparently, I can say it. I just can't. That's also at 12 p.m. Eastern. We are taking Halloween off. We want you to go trick-or-treating, scare yourself, do some good opportunity for exposure. So we will not be on next Tuesday. Some quick things. Online OCD conference content is available for 60 days after the conference. So it's not too late to experience the online OCD conference. You can visit iocdf.org/online OCDcon for more. You can check out all the panels. Also, please subscribe and follow on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, so you're notified when we go live. Also, be sure to check out the entire schedule of all of our live stream events at iocdf.org/live streams. You can also sign up for the newsletter, need resources. Please visit iocdf.org. Finally, if you have questions, there's all the comments, all the links in the comment threads that I just went over. Thank you, Brennan, for that. Finally, if you want to reach out to the IOCDF, questions, comments, concerns, support, whatever you need, you can email the IOCDF at info@iocdf.org. info@iocdf.org. With that, have an amazing week. Thank you. If you have questions for me, you can email the IOCDF as well at that email address, and they'll forward the emails along. So thank you for spending your Tuesday night with me. Stay safe, vigilant, feel the feels. Don't let OCD off the hook. And we'll see you. I think I'm on 3 weeks from today, so 1 week extra. So hang tight. I'll be back, as Arnold says. Have a good night.